Welcome Nines and welcome to the RIPTIDE Afterparty, the party where everyone's welcome, particularly if you happen to be at the first show 2 years ago for RIPTIDE. Don't worry if you weren't, I'm going to cover it regardless. It's just it might be some nice memories for you if you happen to be there. Because we're on the 2-year anniversary of the first RIPTIDE show, Beer, Bands and Wrestling. So for this episode we're going to look back on that, joined by the promoter and owner, Josh Bevan.
Yo!
The creative director, Tom.
How you doing?
And somebody who wasn't there and wasn't involved in it, but he's in the room. Brett.
Hello.
You are, of course, the artistic director at this point for RIPTIDE Wrestling.
Yes.
So you've still got a knowledge of the company and you're
do.
familiar with the talents. So hopefully this won't be too dull for you. And
No,
you can chip in
not
whenever.
at all. I came in one show too late.
What
I
a
came in at
difference
the
maker.
second, yeah.
You could have been a legend.
Didn't like the branding, eh, Brett?
No.
I say you could have been a legend because this show cannot be watched now, not in its entirety.
Mm-hmm.
This is not on your demand service and this is not on YouTube. Josh, tell us, why can the people not check out your first show?
So with the first show, obviously we were trying a few things out. We had some people from wrestling come do it, bring a couple of cams down. There was a couple of technical issues there. I wasn't particularly happy with the presentation. Alongside that, we got a friend of mine, Dave Neal from Wild Stag Studio, who now does film. You know, they bring a crew to do everything from after that view, just to do some promo. And for me I had a suspicion that what was going on in the music video and just general freelance videography world would be a big step up for the presentation of wrestling if it could be kind of properly harnessed, and so Dave was just there to kind of test the waters there and compare against a more traditional wrestling outfit, and looking at the things we had. I looked at what I had with Dave, looked at what we had with the other folks, and with the stuff from Dave I said we're not putting anything out that isn't this. This has to be the only thing we put out, this quality and this type. And then from then on, we've been trying to get somewhere and distill a method with Wild Stag Studio.
Of course, there is one match which is available. It's Shane Strickland versus Will Ospreay.
Yes, well, that still isn't available in its entirety as a match. So there's a highlight video from Dave's cam that's been edited to that. You can find that on.
It's not on YouTube. It's on
Vimeo.
Pivot Share.
And the Pivot Share, you can view that for free on the Pivot Share.
So I suppose we need to go into the origins of this show a little bit, and I have got some questions for you, Brett, despite not being there. But Josh and Tom, so you've discussed the footage not being usable. Let's go back in time to before even the footage is captured. But in terms of putting on the first show, how do you decide which talent can you get hold of and where's the venue? How do you find these things?
Well, through a lot of trial and error, a lot of grunt work, talking to all the bloody venues in Brighton. That's how you find a venue in Brighton. And you've got to do a lot of detective work and sniffing stuff out and thinking outside the box when you are trying to find a venue in Brighton, because there's fuck all venues. And they all have their own issues, and you all have to work out what your trade-offs are. One of the things about the Bright Helm that was very attractive was the lighting that's already in there, which is absolutely not all of the lighting that we used on a RIPTIDE show these days, but there's a lot there already. You know, we don't have to have a big old truss system like at the RevPro York Hall shows and those kinds of things. I'm sure that's a lot to bring in, and the Bright Helm isn't cheap at all. But if we wanted to kit out a hall with the same lighting that is in the Bright Helm, it would probably cost us more in production after the sports hall hire. So that was a big consideration with that venue, and that's how you find it really. In terms of how did we decide who we were going to put on the show, it very much was, we had people that we wanted to use, and it was who could you get hold of, who was accessible, and responsive and receptive on if they had emails on their Twitters or anything like that.
I'm really curious about this part because I imagine, I don't know, but I imagine wrestlers get contact all the time. Hey, we got a brand new show and we'd like to pay you this. Can you do it? And then I'm guessing it falls through quite often.
So new enterprises can just fall through with the early stages.
Maybe for reasons. But I suppose what I'm curious about is how do you get about convincing the talent you're serious? Is it putting down a deposit? Like, I literally don't know how it works.
I think really it's just like any performer. It's part of their job is being let down by opportunities. It's why you'll hear musicians and you'll hear wrestlers and you'll hear actors and you'll hear dancers say things to the effect of, yep, let's go, but I'll believe it when I'm there. About any kind of good news about an opportunity or anything like that, because there's so many factors of why stuff falls through. It's one, because these enterprises are generally unstable, so things can change. It's that these sectors are so dynamic in terms of what it represents a good idea for the promoter or the label or the company at that time. So therefore, stylistically, plans can change. That's something we try and avoid doing to talent as much as we can. But that's definitely a factor in why these things are transient. So yes, people have defences up around that kind of stuff, and it is about being able to display an understanding of their situation and present some sort of face of a sense of reliability and trust, which is challenging, and it becomes easier and easier as you have a track record.
Sure.
But yeah, it was a lot of hard work and it was tough, but I didn't take that. We didn't take that personally in any way, shape, or form. Like, you understand that you've got something, that you really do have something to prove. You haven't put on a show yet.
Yeah.
And if people want to take a chance on you, people want to come down, and people at the bottom of the industry do. That's how they get their experience, is taking chances on smaller promotions, and it's very much part of the job is just weathering that storm until you yourself as a wrestler have more of a track record and therefore more work and blah 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 blah. And so yeah, just a grind really. And the thing that I say about approaching talents, either patrons or collaborators, is don't change their mind, change the offer. If you're coming to someone with a proposition and they don't want to do it, then don't waste your energy going, oh no, go on, I'm really good, I'm going to be really good, oh, it's going to be great. You respect their decision, and you maybe come back with the same proposition, but it's not the same proposition because you've gone away, built up some experience, built up what they need to see from you, so that they're not just pulling something up by its bootstraps, and someone's effort goes into their own performance, not filling the potholes of the promotion. We had our ideas of who we wanted.
Okay. I suppose just on a slight bent of that, does it work that once you've got somebody's trust, being for the first show or the second show, is it easier to reach out them and say, could you pass on so-and-so's email, or do you know someone else who might be free that day?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And they all talk, and luckily word spread quickly that we were a trustworthy organisation to work for.
Yeah, Josh and I can't claim to have been professional wrestlers in any capacity, but we've both done touring musicianship, Josh on a freelance basis as well, so it's really handy to have that experience in knowing exactly if you were turning up to a show, whatever you're doing, what kind of what kind of a room you'd like to be met with. And we always wanted to facilitate people in the way that we'd like to be treated as touring freelancers as well.
Excellent. Well, a big part of the first show, literally the reason I went to it, was seeing a poster up. And this is where I want to talk to you for a second, Brett. Is I'm aware that you didn't design the posters, you didn't design the logo, and I'm not out to critique any other artist's work. But if you were approached to do the first poster for a promotion, do you think you'd go with the traditional photography approach, because you do need to make the people recognisable to wrestling fans? Or do you think you would try and do something different to stand out?
No. Well, I mean, because the first posters I did do were photographic, so I mean, there is less work to that. There is a lot more work to the illustration side of things. but I don't mind which I'm presented with. Like, I'm, a designer and an illustrator, so the whole realm of stuff, like, I guess I'm one of those people that attention, like, jumps here, there and everywhere, so I'm never on one set thing. Like, I want to try and do everything because, stuff grabs me. So the first photographic ones I did, it wasn't a case of like wanting to do something different, because I understand you're selling tickets, especially when you're still early days, that you're selling tickets on the people that are going.
Yeah.
So you want to see their faces. So it was like taking that and trying to make it look different anyway. So I wouldn't have been like, no, I want to illustrate this. I would have like just tried to, take that but turn it up a bit. Add like, my professionalism and my experience to it as well, because there's cutting people's pictures out of promos and sticking them on something or a background, or making the whole thing look like it's meant to be rather than it's...
Yeah, you don't want it to look like a random collage with it's half-hearted. And look, the first posters did the job. They were good. They got people in the door. Yeah, it showcased the big names on the show, where it was, when it was, how much it was. So,
yeah. And I saw, I saw lots of that image, and I was, on social media and stuff, I was getting that image sort of feeded through to me. So it was nothing to do on that why I wasn't at that first show.
Why weren't you at that first show? You just said it was a good poster. What's going on?
It was so I hadn't been to, I'd only been to some family friendly shows, and I don't drink. and I understand the selling of the first one to get more than just wrestling fans. There was beer, music and thingy, and I was like, not sure if I'm brave enough to tackle that, if like the audience or the thing's going to be like, much more rowdy, giggy, rowdy than I was sort of settled for. But then I saw like the highlight, video of Osprey and Strickland and stuff, and I was like, oh, that looks amazing, and then I think Pete Dunne it was British Strong Style, wasn't it, on the second show, and I was like saying to my friends, I'm going I'm going to this, is anyone else coming? So it was nothing to do with poster branding, like anything like that.
Hey, I'd have gone to any Brighton wrestling show regardless, but for me it was CCK on the first one. I was like, CCK are down, whoa, got to get to that show.
That was a really important get. I think it was, shouts to Chris and the kid for being receptive to the booking, because it was I think it was really important for there to be such a relevant Brit Rest team on that first show at the time. It was hot off there, really being made and consolidated in the Fight Club Pro DTT
Dream Tag Team Invitational,
but really building on all the work that they'd done, getting over in the cockpit with Rev Pro,
they won the CCW titles in America,
they had,
is a big deal.
They had those at the time, but I think it gave a lot of credibility to the show, and gave a lot of sort of required viewing for a lot of fans. And credit goes out to Chris Brooks and Kid Lycos for being prominent names and taking on lots of bookings from first time promotions. In our instance, them coming and working for us and allowing us to use their name, as it were, was a big part of getting this territory going. And that's why, as a wrestler, you've got to weigh up not taking on risks in terms of bookings that are going to let you down, that are new promotions, and actually looking to invest in a new promotion that is 2 years later a payday for them and their colleagues, at a time where it's 2 years later on and their wages have gone up.
Well, legitimacy is something that's definitely been beneficial for you. You certainly nailed it with CCK and Osprey and Strickland being on the poster for the first one. Even by the second one, as Brett said, saw British Strong Style, knew he had to come down. Third one, you got Skrull and Havoc. So, it does make a big difference just getting even one serious name on a poster. Obviously, you've had a handful just within the first few shows. So the poster is key, even at early days.
I remember we were flyering around when I think NXT were in town, weren't they? So we went down there and were dishing out flyers outside and like meeting wrestling fans in the city for the first time. Goodness knows, I mean, many might remember receiving the flyer, but a lot of the sort of the things I was saying to people when I was just shouting, trying to get people to take one, is like, Will Ospreay's in town next week, Will Ospreay's in town next week, and that's because if I'd have said Riptide Wrestling is in town next week, well, what's that? No one would have known what that is, and that's why these things are on the poster, because you're using the promoters to build the brand, and at that point, not the other way around. So
Well, actually, when you were handing out those flyers at NXT was when I'd met Josh the first time earlier in the day, because I'd met him in a pub to do an interview for a podcast I used to have, You Total Cop, to get some promotion for Riptide and talk about things. And I specifically remember I spilled a pint over one of your posters. You didn't seem very bothered. It was, so I thought, well, this guy's all right. Hasn't tried to charge me. He's obviously not Carney. But I went to that NXT show after as well. So I remember seeing you guys on the way out. I thought, I've already got a wet poster. I won't bother getting a dry one. No, I thought we should at least go over some of the key matches, and you guys can say whatever springs to your mind almost with them, like not quite word association, but memories. These are out of the misty, hungover staunches of the back of my head, so bear with me. I believe we had B. Priestley versus Laura Di Matteo. Yep. B. Priestley's gone on to wrestle in Japan, make more of a name of herself. Laura Di Matteo is still active on the scene. What, I don't know, is there anything that springs to your mind with those two, with that match, or just booking them? Or
it was the first time, so it was it was a good match, and it was notable for having Paul Robinson come out with B. Priestley and get all up in Di Matteo's grill as well. We never really ended up paying anything off with them just yet, but
no, but it set the context for an appetite for, we kind of had a little listen really, and saw what people's appetite for a bit of intergender was, and people loved it. Having Paul Robinson antagonising Di Matteo, and Di Matteo, getting some, giving him some comeuppance.
Stuck up for herself. Yeah.
It really, and I think the next show we had a couple of intergender matches, didn't we? From there, because we'd sort of really been given permission by the audience to go down that route.
We'd hoped that it would always be a non-factor, and that was us testing the water, I think. And so by the next show we had Candice LeRae wrestling British Strong Style, and very seamlessly. Yeah.
And Eddie Dennis and
Session Moth. Yeah.
So good. but it definitely ties into what you mentioned earlier, Josh, about sometimes wrestlers have to weigh up, is it worth taking a smaller booking at a newer company to see if it pays off. Paul Robinson at the time, I think, if I'm remembering right, couldn't wrestle full time, but he took a booking to come down and just do help B or whatever. And then, as of the recording, the last show you did, he was in the main event against Karen Hart. So building professional bridges. Yeah, that's great. Gideon Gray versus Roy Johnson. Okay, again, anything spring into mind?
The thing that springs into my mind is I am a genius, which was Gideon Gray wasting a lot of time at the beginning of his match, frustrating the crowd, telling everybody that he was a genius. And proto keyboard warrior Curtis Chapman as well.
The debut anywhere of the keyboard warrior Curtis Chapman, I'm led to believe as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
I knew him as the plucky underdog,
the super contender. Yeah.
But tell us more about Chapman coming on.
Gideon just brought him with him, didn't he?
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
This is what I'm doing, and obviously rookie wrestling promoters. Okay.
He's just like, can I bring Curtis to help out? Yes, of course. Did he help out? Absolutely not. He just valeted fucking Gideon.
He's not buggered off since, so that's the problem. Well, give him an inch, they take a mile. Honestly,
he must have left an impact on you. You put him in the Pride of Brighton tournament.
Only because we hoped that OJMO would tear his leg off.
There's still time. Another match. Why didn't this even spring to mind? First one to talk about. Spike Trevay versus Jack Sexsmith.
Oof.
I mean, the feud is still ongoing now. It's the bedrock of the company in some ways.
Absolutely. I think a defining match, and it was the first match out, and very deliberately there to set the tone for the show, and the reception for it again just gave us permission to to do what it is that we've been doing. You know, people say that you're defined by the quality of your enemies, and that is Spike Trivet to the Brighton crowd. You know, as much as Sexsmith or Mambo or Candy Floss, the big baby faces of the company, define the audience or represent the audience. Nothing defines them better than the vitriol levelled at everything that Spike Trivet represents. And you know, he, in that sense, you know, really is a binding factor for the promotion. And yeah, for that to be the first ever match isn't an accident, but it's very poetic that it is at this point. Yeah, was my favourite Riptide match for a long time. Even after the other shows, just the dynamic between those two, I just love it.
And of course, Brett, like I say, you weren't at that show, but you've obviously seen the Jack and Spike feud distilled in other ways over the years. I mean, I assume you're enjoying the feud.
Oh, totally. I completely hate Spike Trivet with a passion.
Good.
So I love all the vitriol he does get at shows.
Mentioning no names, Carl Lockhurst, but it's good to do it.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, did they have that match again in the second show, or was it the third show?
It was the second show.
It was the second show, because I remember seeing them like the first time I went, and I was totally taken in with that feud. And you know, it was the first time I'd seen it, but like, yeah, I was totally in with that feud at that point as well. And like, yeah, Jack Sexsmith was great, and he was straight away a strong face.
It's amazing because over 2 years, this is a feud that's been through, you know, changes in the road, ups and downs. You've had betrayals. Like I was listening to Mike Quackenbush the other day talking about, like, in wrestling feuds, you can have man versus man versus himself, and even man versus nature. If, you know, not necessarily in wrestling feuds, but just in narratives. And like, you know, particularly like, you know, the struggle that Jack had with his own confidence later on in the story. All of this stems from this one 10-minute wrestling match at the beginning of the promotion where Jack Sexsmith made Spike Trivet tap out by putting a condom in his mouth and embarrassing him to the point where he developed an overarching hatred of Jack Sexsmith.
That condom has been very valuable to your promotion.
Boy.
Yeah. Just a simple, you know, humiliation. It wasn't the condom, it was just that little switch that went off in Spike's head.
Yeah, it wasn't fair, and that's it. It's essentially something that wasn't fair to the Spike character, which is tremendously infuriating almost, and you know, seems really rich coming from a character that has all this, that gets everything that he has through unfair means. And through pre-existing privilege, and these things, and for him to be like, no, that's not fact.
I'm a victim.
I saw someone tweet yesterday about it's kind of warming to think that Trump is out there somewhere, having been gifted millions of dollars since birth, and then saved from every bankruptcy, and then essentially given the presidency, and he's sitting in the White House somewhere, miserable that life's unfair to him. It's a mindset or something.
Why did my dad not respect me? That's all Trump's got.
I wonder why.
See, I'm president, Dad.
We've also got CCK and Kip Sabian versus Ashley Dunn, Lion Kid, and some bloke called Chuck Mambo. Have we seen Ashley Dunn since that?
Ashley Dunn appeared at the Storm alongside Kelly Six in the South Coast Connection. They took on the Swords of Essex. And then it was very good. And then again in the Riptide Rumble in 2018 as well.
I missed a lot of that match, unfortunately, at the Storm, because my friend was having a bit of a meltdown, so I was off talking to him. I was kind of in the eye line. I was sort of half watching it and half trying to be a good friend.
Nice. Thank you for that.
Of course, Kip Sabian, AEW, he's gone on to do all right.
He's someone that, funnily enough, from the first time, I mean, it's one of those, like, I'm not trying to cast myself as some sort of ridiculous eye for talent. Like, I'm talking about how talented Kip Sabian is. The fact that I think everyone could see it. Like, saw him at the Lucha Forever show in Southampton, and you see this guy and you're just like, who the fuck is this High School Musical bloke? Like, they've grown him. Is there anything he, like, you know, you just assume that, you know, he's just absolutely picturesquely good looking, really, really charismatic, really, really athletic, and you're just like, well, fuck, look at that, he's an absolute star.
I hate him.
And I think, well, but he's got that, and the thing I love about the keyboard warrior gimmick for Curtis Chapman is that, you know, something that was maybe holding him back in certain people's eyes with his physique at the time, especially when he started doing that. You know, he was a very young man, and you're wanting people to get behind this baby face and be like, he's a good wrestler. And there's obviously this disconnect for a lot of people with people of that kind of stature. While the keyboard warrior, he's a heel, and that helps his character. You not respecting him because of his size, and him overestimating his importance or his power and stuff is fantastic. Now, with the Kip Sabian Superbad character, again, people might not like him. A lot of, you know, traditional wrestling fans might not like a pretty boy character as a face, but like you see it all the time. People having a petulant, sulky, preening, attractive bloke can work really, really well, and certainly Kip Sabian works it well to the point where that character can be heel or face, because he's so charismatic that people can forgive him for his bullshit if that's the way he's going around with it, and he's so entertaining, stomping around and folding his arms and all of that stuff. So we would have used him more if he wasn't so far north, I think. And busy as well. And busy. It's a funny one where, like, you know, a lot of people are talking about how he was underutilized before signing to AEW, and to an extent that is true, but he was really busy and he was really far north, and a lot of promotions that maybe people think they would have wanted to have seen him in more. I don't know how much availability there was, or indeed logistics stuff with him. Certainly was a factor for us.
But at least you got him, you know.
Very happy. Oh, fantastic.
Got to enjoy the work.
I mean, fantastic. And it's just, I think anyone that's seen him over the last couple of years would... no one's surprised, are they? Everyone's really happy for him. It seems left field that he's gotten this signing. But no one's that surprised because, fucking hell, he's great.
Yeah. We loved his Romeo and Juliet kind of brief tag team with Amir Jordan at Riptide as well.
Yeah, that was great. Fun.
My favourite Kip Sabian hook was always when he'd go to do the super, and everyone would go twat, and like it would cut him off, and then he'd always look really surprised and like completely humiliated that anyone would have dared to have done it, even though everyone always does it to him every single time. It's perfect.
Well, speaking of an eye for younger talent, and before it blows up, I believe you had a young chap known as Instagram on the card.
Yes, the man himself.
Now known as Kyle Fletcher. I know for a fact from other interviews he hates the Instagram gimmick. I love it. I genuinely think it's brilliant. Obviously, he's a performer. You don't want to get caught behind a stupid gimmick because he's so talented. But I still love that he did it.
He was so good in that. He was so good. Insta star. Even under a hood, ridiculous gimmick. Out he comes, wiggling his hips, and people loved him. I think it's one of those. He's thrown away the mask, and I think he's jumped the gun there, because now that he is like, absolutely, I think it was appropriate for him to, not to branch out from that gimmick pretty soon after arriving on these shores. I think there's more money in it now. Obviously, now that Carl Fletcher's a thing, and it's exciting, and we're not meant to see this, and whatever. So I'd love to see him bring it back at some point, but
so nice.
He's doing okay.
He's surviving.
He's doing okay.
We would talk about perception to people coming for the first time, and someone coming in and saying, "Who's that?" That's Kyle Fletcher, as opposed to "Who's that?" Oh, that's a hipster luchador. Instantly, you know who that is. Yeah. So there is a merit to it. But yeah, Kyle Fletcher's gone on to be quite the star. So I think that it outweighs it.
Fair point. And the only other match I've got written down, there may have been others. Like I say, these were pulled from my brain. Will Ospreay versus Shane Strickland. Two gents who've gone on to do nothing, sadly.
Do nothing hose.
But you said you saw the footage of the highlights.
Yeah, that highlight reel looked amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Wrestling looked amazing. The video looked amazing. Like, it didn't look like anything, which was just awesome.
Well, these days Riptide have like sort of an almost brand on the camera footage with the moving cameras and the smoke machine and it all looking like an action movie, really. But the time it was filmed and you put that footage out, you weren't necessarily established, so it was a real eye-catching piece to watch, really. What do you guys remember about the main event? How did it come about?
So it came about by 5 Star cancelling the show. One of the big high-profile 5 Star cancellations.
One of many.
And then these wrestlers became available. They were around looking for a booking. They normally, these are kinds of people that we'd sort of approached but not gotten anything from. It was only because of the fact that there was people looking for bookings on existing flights that meant that people were okay to take a chance with us, really. So serendipitous, definitely, even though it came in late, definitely helped the draw. And boy, oh boy, did it help the show to have that calibre of wrestling. It was a great quality of wrestling for the whole show, but nothing like that. That match was absolutely phenomenal, to be honest with you. And at the time, with it being last minute, and this, don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, we do provide adequate accommodation for the wrestlers that need it. Shane Strickland was staying in my spare room for that show, and him walking into the kitchen topless to make himself a sandwich, I think, has left an indelible print on my mother. Her best mate Shane. Tremendous stuff. Send her into the future, I think.
I think it might actually it still be one of the greatest Riptide matches as well, so you were lucky if you were there to see it. It was the first time that people started chanting the name of the promotion.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
I figured that was a plan. I thought you'd done that deliberately, like one of you.
It seems that way, doesn't it? Like it just in terms of it being it's like really good. Like, you think that we would have come up with that and tried to seed that because it's fucking great. But no, thank you very much. Mr. Bradley Stratton, I believe, takes credit for starting the first Riptide chant. So anyone else want to challenge that? Answers on a postcard.
Yeah,
I might just put my own name over that with some. We need to thank MJ Smith. Thanks, boys. Thanks.
People coming to the show for the first time, they often ask me like, "Oh, so the people know what to chant. Do you have cheerleaders or something?" And it's like, well, the noisy boys are a little bit like that, I guess. Like, it's not necessarily people. We don't ask people to chant stuff. It's people who are, well travelled. They go to shows a lot of the time with these people on, and they know, what to chant for these performers.
Yeah. And that piggybacks again off of a wider football chanting culture. So even outside of wrestling, people have an idea of the tunes and the cadence and the functions of these kinds of chants to be able to latch on and join in pretty quickly.
I do remember a couple of years back I was at a Progress Strong Style tournament and it had a Mexican wrestler Flamita on, and on the first day no one had any chants, and the next day someone started, "Whoa, there he is, he's a Flamita." But it's genius because the whole crowd started singing it. And what else could you do with Flamita? Whoever came up with that does deserve a drink or a t-shirt.
I do love that little, sort of the patter as people start to get it. And you hear the little chuckles and then it gets louder and louder. Yeah. It's so funny,
So, were there any other matches that you can think of that I've missed? Apologies to the performers. Like I say, it's just I couldn't watch it on demand, so it's what's in my head. And I was drinking a bit heavily at that show.
6 match cards. No, that's all.
Oh, that's not bad, is it? Hey, the old cranium still working.
Lovely stuff. And a great showing from Chuck Mambo in that 6-person match, and very much some of the chain wrestling that was on display between him and Chris Brooks during that match made that as a singles match something that we wanted to do.
I'm on the record several times as saying the Chris Brooks Chuck Mambo match is one of my favourites I've seen Not just at Riptide, but just favourites I've seen.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, really important match for Mambo's run in Riptide.
So this was
outside.
This was like the prototype of it then, starting to...
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. And obviously it was your first show and you had some ways to go, but even at that point were you thinking, because Mambo got a big reaction, were you thinking we could do something with this guy, or was it playing everything by ear for the first few shows?
Yeah, I mean, he was there because we could do something with him. You know, sort of from the off. But absolutely, the reactions from Mambo just really informed his booking.
Excellent. I guess that's it for looking back on the show. Unless there's anything anyone has to add. Brett, what did you think of the show 2 years ago? Favourite moment?
Favourite moment? Yes, it's that highlight video.
The bit where he does the flippy kick, Brett.
Yeah, I'm day one-ish.
Yeah.
Hey!
There is one other thing we have to mention from that show, of course, which was the band. We've mentioned the wrestling. There was obviously beer. River Jumpers. How did you get River Jumpers? Because I should say the idea was during the interval the band played, which is a lot more entertaining. It still carries on to this day, but it's a lot more entertaining than just we'll stand here in silence. Because if you're not going to the merch store or going for a cigarette, you're just standing around waiting for 20 minutes. So it's really cool to have like a live spectacle to keep watching. But why River Jumpers? How do you know them?
So the River Jumpers is people that band that both you and I know just from kind of the Brighton band scene. Seemed like a good, not particularly out there fit for a show that wasn't just like, let's get a new metal band along. It was heavy melodic music, heavy-ish, kind of pop punk basically. That was a different, an adjacent thread of a similar culture to try and enrich people's experience that are there already, but like maybe also bring people in. And the idea is that whether you're coming for music or the wrestling, the presence of the other one maybe is going to make you more likely to buy a ticket, right? Like, I can go see a band I like, or I can go see a band I like, and there's wrestling. That sounds cool.
As far as we were aware, I mean, we'd been to bits and bobs before, but there was no guarantee that there would be a casual wrestling audience that would show up. So what we had to do was just channel, like, right, we hope that we can make our friends as comfortable as possible coming to the show for the first time, and if they're not into wrestling, then we've got to give them the stuff that they usually like going to do anyway. So that's the drinking and the watching the bands, and
absolutely.
Thankfully, other people showed up as well.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. I mean, I on a personal note, I'm not really a fan of pop punk, but I like that the energy levels stayed up, and I think that it's worked well for you because not only have you done it subsequently, it meant when you had Mark Andrews booked, you managed to get Junior, his band, to play as well. So. Again, it's an idea. You try it one thing, and if it works, you can then build on it. It's a nice touch. But we're not done with this feature yet. Although we've talked about the show in the past, just because of the name beer, bands, and wrestling, I set a challenge to the gentleman at this table. I said, I want you all to come up with a gimmick match that involves some sort of booze, bands, and wrestling, and I want the name of the gimmick match and what it involves. And I'm not sure it's gone down too well, looking at your panicked faces. But what have we all come up with? I can go first if it eases it.
I'll go first. I've got something.
Okay.
I didn't think I would. The name of it rolls off the tongue. It's Drunken Musical Chairmageddon.
Not bad.
That's the
decent.
match.
Yes.
And it's totally for Session Moth. She's going to win this match. I'm sorry. It's probably obvious to everyone.
Right.
I hadn't actually totally figured out the logistics. I just put a number to it. But so say you've got 10 wrestlers in the ring. There's chairs. They're playing musical chairs. Go around, music stops. Take 2 chairs away. The people who don't get a chair have to wrestle. So the rest get out. They have to wrestle. But before they wrestle, they have to quickly Stone Cold style down a can.
Not bad.
Then they wrestle. Yep. The loser has to stay outside the ring. They get a chair like a lumberjack match.
Decent.
So it's an extra level. And the winner has to go back in to play the next round. So you could lose at musical chairs every time, but still win the match, which I think would be Session Moth because keep necking the cans, but keep winning the matches, getting in again. So that's it.
I suspect she'd deliberately lose every match so she could keep necking the cans.
For that,
it'd be a fix
for that energy boost, to get it going again. So and then obviously each time someone gets eliminated, there's more people around the ring. So if you go out, you're going to get
whomped
with chairs.
And what was the name of this again?
Drunken Musical Chair Mageddon.
Okay, if you do it as Drunken Musical Chair Thingy Mageddon, you put Damon Moser in with the move he's made famous at Riptide.
Yes.
I'm not booking that in a stip. Responsible booking, mate. Fucking hell. Talk about duty of care. Christ.
Sorry, I didn't think it through. I'm sorry. I like it. Josh, what have you come up with?
Well, I misread your request, so I came up with a gimmick, a beer-related gimmick for a wrestler.
That's fine.
And the signature move. So the wrestler would be a larger gentleman, but still be able to move well. Be called the Mash Ton. Spelled Tone.
Yeah.
And his finishing manoeuvre would be the Cascade Hops, which is whereby he sort of springboards up. You see wrestlers doing those moves where they sort of hop up, they go into the corner and they hop up on the first, second, third rope.
Yeah.
So he'd do that as he's hopping up, and then he'd moonsault onto the back of them. Big fat man moonsault.
I like it.
And that's the Cascade Hops.
I like a pun and I like a fat man moonsault. So,
Exactly.
what's his theme song? Because when we do this, they got to have theme songs.
Oh my god. The Monster Mash. but it's taken out. It's an edited version that's just the
mash.
It's just the mash. It's the Monster Mash. The Monster Mash. The Monster Mash. Mash. The Monster Mash. The mash. The Monster Mash. It's just that. So none of the Halloween-y ghouls references. And yeah, that's the Monster Mash.
Well, I've got to say,
the Mash Ton. Sorry.
Although that's not what the challenge was, you've not gone for the obvious, which is if you're going for an alcohol-related wrestler, Jack Daniels.
Daniels. Oh my gosh. Jack Daniels. Christ. And then a match, I guess you could have a six-pack challenge.
Yes.
Oh!
Yes. Tom, what have you got for us?
I racked my brain, and that involved just thinking about Vince McMahon just saying the names of matches over and over again. And I ended up with Stella in a cellar. So yeah, it's just like a boiler and brawl, and you drink all the Stella, and then make it out to the ring to collect. I don't know, what was it, an urn? Just more Stella, I guess.
Decent.
I've haplessly avoided the music part of it because there was no good pun that went with that. So yeah, there's a band playing at the cellar. So maybe it's the cellar bar that is in. I don't know. Do me a favour.
I like it. Let's have instead of an urn, let's have a silver tankard with a Stella in.
There you go.
Oh, nice.
There you go.
Book it.
Well, you book it. I can't. Well, I came up with something which is almost it's a little bit of Brett's and a little bit of Tom's. I came up with something called the mosh pit match, which is a lumberjack match, except all the wrestlers have to be doing mosh pit on the outside of the ring, and they all have to have one beer in their hand, so the floor's getting stickier and slippier and sweatier.
Nice, yeah.
And it's just a regular match. But if you get thrown out, you're going to get stomped on a lot before you get chucked back in the ring. I did think as well, just for continuity, we'll have Headbanger Mosh as the referee for that.
Yep, special guest referee, Headbanger Mosh, who's essentially going out and moshing with people to make on the outside to make sure that they're appropriately moshing.
Yeah, I suppose music-wise, aside from the general theme of moshing, we might as well just have his theme tune playing endlessly.
Headbanger's theme tune.
How can anyone get sick of that one repetitive drum beat? You know? I think we've done ourselves proud. So when you say book it, Tom, I'm looking at both of you. Book it. Nice. That's our look back at Beers, Band and Wrestling 2 years on. I think we'll do this more regularly as it's the anniversary of certain key shows. I think I'd like to call it the deep dive.
All right.
So
perfect.
There'll be more deep dives in the future. Thank you for joining us, to the listeners and to yourselves. Is there anything you want to promote before we get out of here?
I want to promote the fact that I was late and the other three people around the table are legends for putting up with my fucking shit.
He brought us hats, it's alright.
Promoting the next show, I suppose, is necessary. Yeah. So the 5th the 5th of July, Point Break at the Brighthelm Centre.
Catchy name. Brett, promote your artwork, promote yourself.
Oh, I know. You can check me out on Twitter. I am at EWF81.
I have nothing to promote because I don't do anything. So thank you for joining me, boys, and
thank you, mate.
Cheers.